Uh, the chair now will recognize the Honorable Rufus Rodriguez. Silence is requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to our distinguished colleagues, and likewise to our valued resource persons. I have just 4 points after hearing all the discussions. 2 would pertain to the Constitution. 1 is the quasi-judicial process of the ERC, and 3rd and 4th about some speculations. Let me start with the lower controversy. It has been, reported by the graphs and also from the reports from IMOP and also from Transco that because of the delay of the projects, our consumers are deprived of a lower cost of electricity. That has been pervasive in this discussion. That is speculative, Mr. Chairman, because there were delays, but there were reasons for the delays. And in fact, the DOE with our colleague has stated that indeed we cannot just directly attribute all the delays to NGCP because there are, like as I've stated in the previous hearing, the Mindanao, Visayas interconnection, problems of a golf course, TRO in the Supreme Court, problems of the right of way in Lanao. So therefore, it's speculative that if the projects were already implemented, then it will result to a lower consumer payment of electricity. So that's the first one. The second one is about the ERC. Have you already issued a decision promulgated on the regulatory reset of NGCP?
Not yet, Mr. Chair.
Not yet. And yet we have here drafts of your decision. And I saw it, there are already signatures. And you publish that? My goodness, it is my first time as a practicing lawyer for 45 years that a quasi-judicial body will be publishing a decision, a draft decision, because precisely you are the ultimate decision maker and you are the regulatory agency. I cannot see any judge publishing what will be his decision and getting comments. Is this not that the procedure that should not be adopted? You collegially decide and then come out. After all, there are parties. The applicant is NGCP. There are intervenors. So maybe know your answer.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Those were, the publication were part of the rules, and in fact, those rules were also subjected to public comments, and there were no oppositions to those steps. And Mr. Chair, just to clarify, this is not unique to NGCP. This is part of the the rule-making process for regulated entities.
I think you have to revisit your rules. Look at it now. It's being used. And practically, you'll be influenced when people will be knowing what you're going to decide on and then be able to influence you. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We are open to influence by the public because that is the part of the process, Mr. Chair.
But other influences will not be from the public, but vested interests, Mr. Di Malanta. You see, there are some vested interests who are interested, in fact, in the NGCP franchise. So therefore, if you are a judicial body, you're just like a judicial body, and you should not be announcing everything first before your final decision, because after the final decision, there can be the motion for reconsideration. So that is my take as far as your rules of procedure are concerned. Next, Mr. Chairman. We go now. So first, we have already, in the last hearing, it was clearly established NGCP have paid all the taxes. It has paid all the taxes BIR states so, ERC states so. Second, the NGCP has complied with for the franchise section on public ownership. They listed a company which has 30% ownership there, corporation already listed. So the second issue, clearly, the NGCP has rightly and fulfilled their obligations in the Section 8 and then Section 7 on taxes. Third, cross-ownership. Clearly, ERC Chairperson Mona said that the prohibition against cross-ownership had already been amended by the franchise of NGCP. Now I go to new issues. Now the next issue is, already in the last hearing, the SEC has already come out with an opinion that chairmen who are foreigners, like in this case a Chinese is a chairman, has no violation of the constitutional provision under Article 15 that it says there that executive and managerial positions are reserved to Filipinos. Clearly, the chairmanship is not a violation if you have a Chinese or any other foreign individual. Now, what's being brought here is that the chief technical officer, question to SEC, are technical officers executive or managerial positions violating the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. As to the duties of the Chief Technical Officer, it would largely depend on what is written in the bylaws of NGCP.
NGCP, did you not examine that and then you had a decision and you have certified that there's no violation?
We have no certification that NGCP has not violated any constitutional provision. If I have to manifest that. What I have stated in the last hearing is based on an opinion by the SEC that was issued before, stating that chairman of the board may be a foreign national, but it has to be qualified that his duties will be limited to that of a presiding officer in board meetings.
That's correct. NGCP, okay. Oh, you have secured all the approvals of this chief technical officer. Can you tell us which agencies has approved and has now no objection to your appointment of a chief technical officer who is a Chinese?
Mr. Chairman, the chief technical, well, all our technical officers at that time had to go through a gamut of applications for work permits and visas, work visas. We first go to the DOE to get their endorsement, and they will endorse the application to the DOJ, and the DOJ will cascade that application to the
To get
BID.
that endorsement from DOE.
And then the BID, after yes.
Yes,
Well,
yes, for the record. The DOE endorsed your application, endorsed that position to be held by a Chinese, and then you can now go to the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Immigration, which I headed during the time of President Estrada.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. That's the procedure. And then they evaluate the functions that the technical personnel will be performing, and if they are indeed technical in nature, they will issue the permit for the technical personnel.
And were they issued permits from the Bureau of Immigration and the Department of Justice?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
For nobody has questioned these decisions of the agencies that are really looking into whether a position holder violates the Constitution or not. There was no adverse decision of all the agencies of the government.
Not that we recall, Mr. Chairman.
Was there, because you supervise corporations, was there a complaint of any person against the chief technical officer holding this position that it violates the law?
As of this moment, Mr. Chair, there is no filed complaint regarding that matter, Mr. Chair.
And so therefore, once again, I'm saying that there is no violation at all. And so, chairman can be a foreigner, chief technical officer can be a foreigner. Now, it's clear. Now, let's go to the most basic, the most important constitutional, what pervades the Constitution, and that is national security, Mr. Chairman. It is not mentioned in the Constitution, but in every section, every article of the Constitution, always national security. What is there is national territory, national development, and all of this. So then we go now to the issue of the Chinese with the NGCP. Okay. So now, you stated, Attorney Sagayo, that indeed you have a memorandum of agreement between you and NICA, correct? And NICA, Mr. Chairman, is the primary intelligence gathering and analysis of arm of the Philippine government, carrying out three functions: overt, covert, clandestine intelligence operations. So we have to find out on this issue of national security, which is brought about during the last hearing and then now, that the Chinese are there, and therefore there is this is a question of national security because the Chinese interferes with the NGCP, interferes in its operations, its decision making. And therefore, if they are there, it therefore creates a problem on national security, and which all of us Filipinos will be against if there is any foreign power that will therefore make, decide on the fate of Filipinos. We will know now whether this particular, has the NICA found any violation of NGCP in relations to these Chinese being there as technical or as board directors?
Before you answer, your 5 minutes up, but we will give you an extension because you're also a senior citizen.
Yes, I invoke
Okay,
that
for
because
those-
otherwise
okay.
there will be no equal protection of the laws.
Okay.
If
Okay,
you are going to
proceed.
give
We will extend.
Congressman Marcoleta and not me. Thank you for the
Okay,
3 minutes.
thank you.
Otherwise, you violate the Constitution.
Mr. Chairman, please.
Please, attorney.
No finding of any violation by
And-
NICA. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And since when did you have this memorandum allowing NICA to really go into the operations, go into the your distribution system and the influence of the Chinese in the NGCP? When did you have that NICA agreement?
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Prior
Right.
to this administration, we had been allowing NICA, ISAFP to inspect our facilities. During this administration of President Marcos, we entered into a memorandum of agreement with NICA. And also during this administration, we allowed them, Mr. Chairman, to hold office in NGCP. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So you're saying
Proceed.
that NICA, Mr. Chairman, can I proceed? You're saying that the NICA is holding office right there in your premises.
That's what I said, Mr. Chairman.
Wow. And
Thank you.
also, you mentioned about the ISAP. Do you have also agreements with the armed forces of the Republic of the Philippines?
Mr. Chairman, with respect to the armed forces of the Philippines, we have agreements in the local level with respect to the protection of our facilities. And we also have an agreement with the armed forces of the Philippines with respect to reservists. We have reservists who are employees of NGCP who committed themselves to protect the transmission facilities. And Attorney Samboy here is a lieutenant colonel of the reserve forces of the armed forces of the Philippines. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So in all the operations from the time you started in 2008. Up to now, has there been any derogatory report and you have been asked by the NICA, the armed forces, and all the intelligence bodies here that you have to be, there are violations in terms of possibility. We're talking about possibilities. Possibility of interference by these Chinese who are always intruding illegally in our West Philippine Sea, and which the Chinese has lost all 8 points in the international arbitral tribunal in Den Haag. Was there any to alert you? Because the NICA is the primary intelligence gathering and analysis of our country. Was there anything from the time you operated up to now that NICA has called your attention to violations?
Mr. Chairman, there's none. We haven't received any notice from NICA, from ISAFP, that we are violating security measures and laws. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And my final question is to the President, President Anthony Almeida. You're under oath. Where is Anthony?
Mr. Almeida, please take your respective seat. I
Do
think
you-
he went to the restroom.
Yeah. Do you assure this august committee on committee on franchise, with our distinguished members here present and the valued resource persons, can you state you're under oath that there is no possibility of interference from the Chinese in our operation, especially in the supply of electricity in this country, which was also stated by the chairman, no less than Henry C. Sr., that there is no possibility at all, and everything is fake news, that the Chinese can interfere and can black out the entire country. Can you say that categorically, unequivocally?
Mr. Almeida, you're under oath.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, there is no possibility that, as far as I'm concerned, as a Filipino citizen and as a reserve also of the armed forces, I categorically say that there's no possibility, Mr. Chair, that the Chinese can,
Thank you. And with that, Mr. Chairman, it is clear that the NGCP has not violated any constitutional provision, and even the principles underlying the Constitution. Number
Thank
two, Mr. Chairman, it has clearly followed all the provisions of its franchise. Third, all that they have done has been approved by the ERC. The pass-on of the franchise tax and all the cross ownership and also the public offering. So, Mr. Chairman, I do not see how we can continue with this hearing when there are no violations. Mr. Chairman, that is my question.
Thank you.
Would you again want to go delve on that when clearly the constitutional issues, the franchise issues, the speculations, Mr. Chairman, I think we should already adjourn and let's go to face what are the important bills of our country, like my intelligence bills, my anti-espionage bills,
Thank you
because
very
that
much.
will increase the penalties of spies.
Thank you
this
very
country.
much, the
Thank you.
Honorable Rufus Rodriguez.
Mr. Chair.